Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. If you have clicked the video, angry at the thumbnail and title, I ask you to wait and hear me out, because my story on Elden Ring has not been the same as many's. Elden Ring is a game that I was super excited to try. I was really excited for it to be my first endeavor into the Dark Souls series. I've never played Dark Souls or any Souls-like game, so this was going to be my first impressions of the series. And I have to say, it was beyond disappointing. Now, I'm sure that the story is great, and I'm sure that the gameplay is fun. However, my first 2 hours in this game were just the worst. My first impressions were horrendous with this game. And I'm going to explain to you now the issues that nobody's talking about. First off, I had finished downloading the game an hour before the actual release, and I launched it up and I started playing. I had not done any testing prior to the stream. I wanted to go in completely blind. This includes, I only watched the official trailer 2 days before, and I have watched nothing else, no reviews, nothing. I wanted an honest-to-God first impression. This was a mistake. First things first, I load up the game on stream and I create a new character. This is where issues already started to arise. The navigation of menus is possibly the most unintuitive I've seen in any game. Bar none. I just want to preface this with the fact that I have actually played Cyberpunk on release and I have played Halo Infinite on release, so I am used to rocky starts, bad launches. This tops them. By any metric you can think of, this tops them. First off, I'm looking at the button prompts so I can help myself navigate the menu. It was giving me all controller prompts, despite the fact that there was no controller plugged in. Keyboard. Does anybody know a way to change it from... No, I don't... No, bugger off, I don't want that. Can I... It's there. What was it? One sec. Basically, everything's displayed to me as if it's a controller. But I'm not using a controller. Ah! Praise the Lord. Right, okay, now let's get it so that Callum isn't at 3 FPS. Chat then goes on to tell me, oh yeah, you're supposed to play it on controller. And I was like, no, this is a PC game. I have downloaded it on PC. There was no requirement for a controller listed anywhere. I don't like controllers. I'm going to play keyboard and mouse. I'm more comfortable with it. Which is understandable and acceptable for a PC release. So, navigating the menus to change the prompts on screen from controller to mouse and keyboard took me over 10 minutes to do that alone, because navigating the menu is not intuitive on mouse and keyboard, and the prompts were all telling me to press A or B on controller. Now, anybody who's played any game other than the Souls series, expect escape to be cancel, enter to be confirm. I got stuck in a slider for my appearance on how greasy my hair was, or whatever the slider was, for a good couple of minutes. I was trying everything that I could think of to lock in my selection or cancel it. I didn't care at this point. I just wanted to move on. I'd had enough time messing about. Age, young, of course. Keepsake, none. Can I not choose base template? Is there supposed to be a button here? This UI is a bit jank. You have to press enter on the name. Okay. Right, okay, I need to get to settings. Why will you not let me? Alter skin color. Okay, you'll get 60 FPS Callum back in a second. Okay, that's very Callum. Wait, why does masculine and feminine just go between tiny face and fat face? What is feminine about that? Right, okay, let's just put that back. Apparent age, 255. We'll do that. Form emphasis. What's form emphasis? Okay, there's nothing I can do with that. Do I really need to press enter again? Enter? Enter? Escape. Hello? Yeah, I know I'm a little bit choppy. It's because I'm in full screen, but I can't get out of the menu to change it. Right, so I can change that, but I don't want to. I'm enter, backspace, space, shift, tab. What? Q? Are you shitting me? Why the... Does this count as a death? I'm then told by chat, oh, it's Q and E, which is great. I now know how to do this, but I had to be told by someone who had previously played other Souls games. So, for people who have played Souls games, this is intuitive. You know this already. If I wasn't told that, that would have probably been my first quit moment. Because I'm stuck in a menu that I can't go forwards in and I can't go backwards in. And there's no intuitive way to do either of those. I've tried all the things that come to mind, none of them work. But with the help of Twitch chat, I continued on into this. I really enjoyed the wide variety of classes or pre-made characters that you get to pick from. I really took a liking to the astronomer or the astrologist, and I went with that. It looked cool. Vagabond, warrior, hero. Fucking hero. That's very vague, isn't it? Hero, bandit, astrologer. That seems interesting. Like, what other classes are there? Prophet. With a toilet seat round his neck, lovely. Samurai. Prisoner is apparently a class. Confessor. Hold up. We got Nakey here for a class. I'm then prompted with pick body type A or B. And it just pops up on the screen A and B. What does that even mean? Choose a body type A, B. Male or female? Which one's which? Oh, they say behind. Never mind, I'm being really dumb. Yep, cool. Well, it means body type. And by body type, it means gender. Now, I don't know if this is something specific to Elden Ring or if this has been throughout the whole Souls series. But I'm assuming it's something to do with not labeling genders. I don't know. Again, I really don't know. I can only assume that that's why they went with A or B. But there was no representation in this pop-up of what A and B were. Someone just said to me, oh, A is male, B is female. So if that's the case, why not just have, if you want to avoid tagging them as genders, just have masculine and feminine as options. It's not hard. But you made it hard by just giving me an A-B option with nothing in the pop-up to explain what they meant. Again, I literally had to have Twitch chat tell me. Now, in the menu prior to this, it does show you what A and B is when you're picking your class. But A and B doesn't draw your mind in to correlate between male and female. You're busy looking at the classes because that's a class selection screen. So when you move on to the next menu, you're just prompted with A or B. So at this point, I had selected a character, I had made him the gender A, and moved on to the next part. And this is where the issues really started to flood in. Now, I want to give you the specs of my PC here, because this is very important to all the things that are about to occur. I am running a 3070 Ti GTX graphics card. High-end stuff. It's overclocked, and it's the higher memory version. So it's almost toe-to-toe with the 3080 at this point. I am also running a 16-core, that's right, 1/6-core Threadripper CPU. This CPU smashes encoding, smashes video rendering, and anything you throw at it, it just destroys. I also have 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM at 3200 clock speed. Again, lots of RAM and very high end, very high speed. This is way above their recommendations. So at this point, my entire PC has decimated their recommended specs, like absolutely crushed them. Now, this isn't relevant to the first point, but it will be going onwards. First up, I jump in and I start to turn my character. I touch my mouse and my character does a complete 180. Like, instantly 180s. Camera snaps, it all flicks round. I'm unable to walk around. So I go into the menus, I reduce camera speed, I reduce mouse speed. I even reduce the DPI on my mouse all the way down with my with the buttons that are on it. And I could not turn slow enough to walk in a direction consistently. If you even breathed on the mouse, you flick 90 degrees now. Oh my... What is... These are not the controls I was expecting. You just duck and weave whenever you touch A and D. Okay, the turning on this is so violent. It's like it snaps. What on earth is this? So I spent a good 15 to 20 minutes at this point messing with the mouse settings, the camera settings, the DPI settings to try to get it to be even playable. And I couldn't. In the end, I gave up. I absolutely gave up. This would have been the second quit moment. Again, if it wasn't for Twitch chat. Twitch chat were going wild saying, please just plug in a controller. I promise you it's better on controller. It's not built for mouse and keyboard. Which again, I have to say, it's a PC release with no hard requirements for a controller. Now, I grew up playing on Xbox. I'm used to an Xbox controller, but I prefer mouse and keyboard anywhere possible. So I give up. I plug in the controller. The prompts on screen do not change to controller prompts. I have to go do that manually, despite the fact that they originally detected as controller prompts. So back into the menus UI we go. I'm digging around in there to try and find this option that, again, is not in an intuitive place, but I find it, I set it. We're good. All is good in the world for now. Then, about 10 seconds later, when I actually leave the first room and start to move around, my FPS, my frames per second, are so low and choppy that my stream is just stuttering. I checked this out on another monitor, and I find out that Elden Ring is eating 95% of my GPU and about 48% of my CPU by itself. Now, remember the PC specs here. Everyone in chat says, oh yeah, you need to turn off volumetric fog, motion blur, and just about everything else. They give me a list of about 5 things that I need to turn off. Not down, off. So I do that. My memory usage is still the same. My CPU usage and GPU usage, still the same. Stream and FPS, still choppy as hell. Other people in the chat are then telling me, yeah, my 30 series cards also having the same issue. While other developer friends of mine in the chat are saying that they're running it on 2080s absolutely flawlessly and streaming it at 4K. So there's some wild inconsistencies here that seem to have just not been tested in the slightest. It's absurd for a current gen game to release on next gen hardware and require you to turn all the current gen settings off. I had to turn off anti-aliasing, the lot, you name it, it was off. With it still being choppy, I'm walking around. There's things popping in right in front of my face. The game that was beautiful now looks like it's just been dragged out of a sewer. And it still doesn't perform. My movement is delayed constantly. Any action I press, delayed. At this point, I'm just straight up not having a good time. I can't enjoy the game. But I tried to follow the tutorial, which was an absolute task in itself. The tutorial is incredibly easy to accidentally skip. And if you accidentally skip any of the parts of this tutorial, you miss out on a key component of combat being taught to you. So, me, with all of my might and willpower being put into trying to follow this tutorial, I still missed a good 60% of it. A lot of the time, with your graphics settings on as low as mine were, the little lines of light that point towards the points of grace, which is where your tutorial starts out, are just straight up not visible. They're either completely invisible, or they're pointing off in the wrong direction. Or they're only visible when you get to them, which isn't helpful because they're supposed to guide you to it. So I ditched the tutorial and Twitch chat became my tutorial because I'd finished trying at this point. I couldn't find the stuff that I was after. Now, I want to take a minute to point out another flaw with the mouse and keyboard setup here. The default layout is abysmal. I've never seen a default keyboard layout for a game that is as horrendous as Elden Ring. I'm just going to give you one example here. To hot swap between your weapons and potions, you use the arrow keys, the directional keys under your numpad. Why they thought that that was a good place to put it is absolutely beyond me. And I'll tell you why. Combat in Elden Ring is so fast-paced and involved, you need to be constantly on the movement keys and constantly on the mouse for, you know, many reasons that you can imagine for combat. To hot swap weapons, which is essential in combat, you need to remove your hand from one of those places, which will 9 times out of 10 result in you dying. Then we have the world map on the controller layout, which is start. Start opens up the world map. That's fine. That makes sense. That is common. But you don't press start to close the world map, which is the only thing that the start button does when you're roaming around the world. All you can do is press start to open the map, so why do you not press start to close it? Why is that not an option? Open your map. Well, that'd be great if I knew what map was. Oh, first try. Okay, church. Okay, no. Okay. Alright, so the option that you use to open the map is not the one you use to close it. That's a great first impression. Every UI seems to have a different rule set or use case for every button. There's no uniformity to anything. It's not intuitive. You have to learn the buttons for each UI. It's a bit bizarre. Not to mention that when I was pressing buttons in the map to try and figure things out, it allows you to drink your potions while you're in the world map. Now, hear me out. Some people might say, oh, but that's okay because you can, you can move around while the world map's open, or the game doesn't pause. And that's a fair assessment. But here's the other thing. The button to drink your potion is actually a button that you can use to do things in the world map. I can't remember off the top of my head if it was to mark a point of interest or to cancel a point of interest. But if you press it and you're not hovering over a point of interest, it drinks a potion. This is just awful UI design. So I finally get into combat, you know, the main thing, the main attraction of the Souls games. And as I picked a caster, I noticed that as I run away and by the time I've run away and turned around back to the enemy, they've already closed the gap. I can't cast at a distance. And this is where chat say to me, why don't you just lock onto them? And they tell me how to lock onto them. So I do that. And this makes things much, much better. Now, here's the thing. This is part of the tutorial that I hadn't done because I had accidentally skipped it without knowledge of me accidentally skipping it. Because there was no indication that I'd skipped this part of the tutorial or that it even existed. Every piece of this beginning tutorial teaches you a very important part of combat that is essential to combat. You need to know it. So the fact that you can skip those is absurd. Again, this is coming from someone that this is their first time in a Souls-like game or a Souls series game. This obviously doesn't matter to returning players. This is the part of the game that's supposed to be an onboarding experience for new players to the genre. And Currently, they have failed at every step with that. I finally get back on course, and I am led to my first boss. Hallelujah. I can finally see what the Elden Ring boss fighting is all about, because this is the main attraction of the games. All you hear about is the fantastic bosses and the good difficulty curve throughout the games. This first boss is called Margit, and between non-responsive combat buttons, triggering quite a while after you actually press them, between my new LOD level of detail settings now no longer showing me correct collision of the things around me, and my camera being awful to operate, I died a lot. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going to be saying, Cal, that's what Dark Souls is about. And I know that. I went in knowing I was going to be crushed. But here's the problem with Margit as the first boss. After this, I went and watched other YouTubers or uploaded VODs from Twitch, and veterans of the genre are even saying that this boss is possibly the hardest one in Elden Ring. Veterans of Dark Souls were stuck on this boss for 2 to 3 hours sometimes. Now, if a veteran is getting stuck on this boss, imagine a completely new player to the genre. They're getting trampled for hours on end, only an hour into the game. While I agree that the first boss should be difficult to really, drive home the fact that this game is relentless, this is not the way to do it. And for me, this was the quit moment. Not because of the boss's difficulty alone, but because of every issue combined. I no longer felt that I was competing with the game's creatures. I was competing with the game itself. I was competing with the UI, the responsiveness, the camera controls. And with all that stacking up against me, along with the difficult boss fight that was way, way overtuned, I said sorry to the stream, I Alt F4'd, and I refunded the game. The game's story and visuals are promising. They are really promising. They are beautiful. They give me Shadow of the Colossus vibes, and I really like that. And that's why I was excited to play it. But everything else just took away from this. It was soul-crushing. For all the wrong reasons. A lot of people use the excuse, oh, it's a From Software game, this is to be expected. It shouldn't be. We should not be paying £50, $60 for a game on launch that just wasn't tested on mouse and keyboard, but came with the option to do so. I don't often say anything like this, but whoever was put in charge of making the mouse and keyboard layout and controller scheme just needs to be fired. They straight up do. Not a single keybind other than the movement made sense at all. None of the keys that are within reach of WASD do anything of importance. They are all unimportant keybinds, while anything that is essential to combat is on the numpad or the directional keys or the far right of the keyboard. It feels like somebody made the keyboard and mouse layout scheme in the last 20 minutes and nobody tested it at all. Now, I did make Twitch chat a promise. I said that if they fix this, if the game gets fixed so that I can play it on keyboard and mouse, I will give it another try. But this leads to another problem, because all the prior keyboard and mouse fixes that have come to all the other Souls games have been through third-party mods. And Elden Ring has introduced Easy Anti-Cheat, which completely stops any third-party mods. And this leads to another rabbit hole that I haven't seen many people discuss. There was a conversation in my Twitch chat that some people had pirated the game after purchasing it because it was so abysmal on performance. I had a theory that Easy Anti-Cheat was causing the issues. And at least 4 people told me that the pirated version without Easy Anti-Cheat is completely playable. There's no issues. So this really begs the question, why is this such an issue in Elden Ring specifically? And the final issue that I'm going to leave you with, I died a lot. That's not the issue. But when you go back to your death site and you collect your glowing light and, your soul, you get your soul back. Well, that's an important mechanic that you need to do quite a lot. When the graphic settings are lowered to the point that I had to, the light that shines to show you where you died is so small and such a subtle light, you can lose it in grass, which is everywhere. I died and had my body flung somewhere. I come back to find my body and I can't find it anywhere in an open field. For some reason, I decided to look in a tiny bush. Sure enough, it was in there. This is bad game design. Really bad game design. But that's really all I have to say on this. I saw so many positive videos coming out about this, and I didn't really see anybody on the content creator front that has had all these issues. However, if you look at the Steam reviews, there are a lot of people having these issues. I launched the game on launch day and had 21 friends that owned Elden Ring. I launched it this morning. I have 6 that own Elden Ring, which can only lead me to believe that that many people are refunding the game, which is a really bad... I know it's a small sample size, but that's a really bad metric for how many people are just struggling to get it playable and to get enjoyment out of it in the first 2 hours. Ladies and gents, I hope to return to you one day with a video about how everything with Elden Ring is fixed. There is diamonds within the rough here. There are good elements. It has a solid foundation, but it needs to sort out these fundamental issues. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for watching. I will be live on Twitch after this video. As always, a massive thank you to the Patreons. You guys are absolutely awesome. If you enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment. It means a lot to me, but I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care.